Welcome back to the Wilderness to Workplace podcast. My guest today, his name is Carter. They are a Lees-McRae graduate from 2021. They have a pretty unique story to our ORM program. I'm really excited today to get to hear this story. So Carter, if you don't mind, please introducing yourself, what you do currently, and what you like to do outdoors.
Yeah, my name's Carter Tanny. I'm a full-time tattoo artist and professional artist. I do freelance and have like sole proprietorship. So I work for myself. I also make t-shirts and I'm working on other just artistic ventures. What was the second question? I'm sorry.
So what do you like to do when you go play outside?
Oh yeah, I do all kinds of stuff when I play outside. I love to hike. I love snowboarding. I love canoeing, kayaking, camping. I do a lot of outdoor activity.
We'll talk a
I,
lot
I
more
pretty much
about those later in
cool.
the podcast, but love that as a warm-up question. So
Yeah.
thinking about Lees-McRae and your time at college, how did you find out about Lees-McRae and what initially drew you to the school?
So I originally found out about Lees-McRae through our college counseling enrollment officer at our school. We have a counselor at my high school that I'm sure like a lot of high schools do, that is pretty much solely for the purpose of seniors finding and picking and selecting colleges based on interest and academic ability. So they kind of just help you like live for schools that you have a high chance of getting into essentially. And Lees-McRae was one of my top picks because I was really interested in doing wildlife biology. I also really liked the idea of going to a college that had a really small population as far as students to professor ratio because my education is something that is really important to me, and I really have a hard time with retention in large settings, especially in my school where we had really large classrooms with 40 students to a class to 50 students, and that's small. But I liked the appeal of having a similar structure so that I could focus and also be able to have more of like a direct one-on-one with my professors. So I originally enrolled at Lees-McRae with the hope of studying wildlife biology. And then as I got to school, I stayed with that program. And after my first semester, I ended up having a kid. So having a baby made me super, super, super busy all the time. So I was working a full-time job while I was also going to school. And I couldn't do time as far as like doing the major that I went to school for. And then I ended up changing majors to ORM. So that's how I ended up in the ORM program, at least.
So when you were making that decision to go into ORM, how much about the outdoor rec management field did you know at that time? Had you taken any of the ORM classes, or was it just somebody told you about it and it was like, that's a good fit for me?
So ORM was in its second year as a program being offered for the school as a major. At the time that I was able to switch to the program, when I decided to make the switch to do ORM, to me, it just seemed like the number one best fit for me, like best second option as far as wildlife biology and my interest in things that I like to do. So growing up, I was involved in scouting, and I'm actually an Eagle Scout. So I spent a lot of time working in the outdoor industry for the Blue Ridge Mountain Scout Association. And I worked for Camp Powhatan and Camp Atari for a couple of summers and in Hiwassee, Virginia. And I've also done a lot of backpacking, kayaking, canoeing, and I had a big interest in the outdoor field. The second thing that I was interested in wildlife biology was becoming a national park ranger. And the appeal of that was initially what brought me to ORM. I later found out that it's really hard to get a job as a park ranger at a park that you want to work in. It's really, really tremendously difficult. It's not that it's not possible, but it's really hard. And it's also really cool. It's something that I wanted to be able to have an opportunity for and open that door for myself. So I thought ORM would be something that could kind of focus my my shifts to doing like outdoor education because I had a lot of interest in doing that. Like I've taught climbing, I've taught canoeing, sailing, I've done a lot of merit badge teachings when I worked for the Scouts. So that was something I was really interested in. And I also had recently begun an interest doing snowboarding up at Beach Mountain and was going there quite frequently and was super excited to learn more about outdoor industry in the local area. And so I decided to make this shift to doing ORM because I thought that would be kind of the best fit for my college experience. And I was like 100% correct. It was probably the best decision that I could have made
Oh, that's
for
awesome.
enjoying college. I don't think I would have enjoyed going to school if I would have done something else. I really don't.
Yeah, we often tell people, especially when we're at the open houses, we're the people side of the wildlife bio. If you want to work and communicate with people, come hang out with
Yeah.
us and we'll try to blend both of those worlds together in a way that makes sense. So, when you think back on your time in school, and I know you've had a little bit of time to look over these questions, what are some experiences that you had at Lees-McRae that were valuable during your time at school there? And that can be academic experiences, just, experiences in the greater community. What are some of those standout moments from your time?
Some of the standout moments from my time at Lees-McRae.
Yep.
I have a pretty significant number. Lees-McRae was a really cool experience for my life. I grew up in a really small town that I really desperately wanted to leave. It's kind of like abandoned factory, it's Martinsville, Virginia, and it's grown a lot. I'm not speaking poorly of Martinsville. I'm just saying that I, like many youth, grew up in a town that I was ready to get the hell out of, and I thought that moving to the mountains and going to this kind of small college would be a really cool experience for me to be able to explore and meet a lot of people and have kind of just like a fresh start. And so that was a big factor in my decision and why I enrolled in Lees-McRae was I was really excited about the small populace of the area and having the ability to kind of be close with people and kind of have really close interpersonal relationships where it's kind of like small town where you know everybody. If you go to Lees-McRae, and Lees-McRae is growing constantly. I'm sure it's probably not the same even now as it was when I was a freshman, but I remember going to Bobcat Day. And that was something that was like super awesome was I drove up to Lees-McRae for the first time by myself without my parents and got to really just meet people and kind of talk and see what my experience as a college student would look like on a day-to-day basis. And being next to App State and being able to see the co-experience of what it looks like to go to a really big university versus a smaller college. I was never a student that was really envious of that. I loved the fact that I went to a small school where I saw my professors every day. They knew me by name. I got to, have really close one-on-one interpersonal relationships with my professors in ways that helped me with my career and maintaining focus. People just really cared about, me as a person. And I really appreciated that. And I don't want to say that that's not what you would receive at a larger university, but that kind of compassion with your professors and that kind of understanding doesn't really come when you go to a school that large. There's a lot of events at Lees-McRae that I got to participate in through the outdoor programs, such as Expedition into the Wild or some of the travel experiences that the school offers now. And then that, like my experience, studying abroad with the Lees-McRae program was probably one of the coolest trips I've ever been on in my entire life. I got to, see my country in a way that I'd never seen it before, and that radically changed my perception on the way I look at even our little mountains in Appalachia today, and the way I look at the town that I grew up in. It's significantly changed and radicalized the way that I see the world in a really positive way. Like in a really growing way. It's really shifted my outlook what's possible for being able to live places and kind of having opportunity. Like I got offered jobs when I went out west and had opportunities that were offered to me that, I couldn't take at the time because I have a child here. But at the same time, it makes me think about, you know, when I'm 40 and like what I want to do then, life I hope will be long for, most of us, and sometimes it's not, but we can hope to live a long time. And I can hope that, in the next 20 years or so, if I decide to do something that's not art related, I still have, a huge passion for the outdoor industry. And there's things that, that Lees-McRae has showed me that you can do that I didn't think you could do. And that's something that's been really cool. Like different job positions, different outdoor positions that you can take as far as like the ski industry, for example. I didn't really understand the infrastructure that went into maintaining and running like beach or sugar. And being a student at Lees-McRae, I got to really get an inside grasp, I guess, or a perspective on what it really takes to kind of maintain a multi-million dollar ski resort, or like what it maintains to run an outdoor program and what that looks like. And being able to be like, the second class of the outdoor program at Lees-McRae was something that was really cool because, we were constantly changing and evolving the program. And even now, it's cool to see all of the newsletters and the things that, Lees-McRae is doing with the students now, especially with the ORM program. I know I'm just like going on and on about this one question, but I just it's really hard for me to pinpoint exactly what experiences of Lees-McRae that stood out to me, because the whole experience in itself it was just awesome. Like I was stressed out, as as much as most college students are. I look back on it and I think that there are a lot of times where I should have just taken a deep breath because it was fine and I had people that were, on my side and there for me. And in the end, I got my degree and graduated with a lot of respect for not only the program and the people who helped me, along the way, but also a lot of respect for the education that I walked away from. It's definitely not something I think I'll ever take for granted.
You just mentioned something that we were going to talk about a little bit later in the podcast, but it's probably a good time to talk about it now. Who are some of those people that you would want to mention individually? Again, this can be from Lees-McRae that had a really strong impact on your journey, or people, I know you were at Beach Mountain for a while as a ski snowboard instructor. So
Yeah.
who are some of those people that you'd like to give a shout out to as far as mentorship?
There's a lot of people. I definitely don't think I could have graduated without the help of Dr. Wall or Talia Freeman, honestly. Talia and Dr. Wall like really, really helped me when it came to my graduating and making it through my senior year. But I also honestly think that a lot of the staff at Lees-McRae are really compassionate and understanding people. I was a student with a small child and had a very different work structure than a lot of other of my peers. Not everyone around me was raising a baby, working a full-time job, and studying and going to school. So I was doing all of it. And if it weren't for, my professors understanding the fact that I was just stressed out and allowing me, to turn in some assignments late once in a while, or giving me some grace just on just a compassion side. I think that there's a lot of staff that was really helpful. There's there's hard to it's hard for me to think of all of the names because there's a lot. I think most significant would probably be Katie and Talia, and probably I'm gonna forget to say someone's name who loves me and then they're gonna be angry with me. Sorry for y'all. But a lot of the people in the ORM program were really helpful. The people who work in the business administration office, pretty much everyone down there was tremendously helpful. There are names that I'm trying to remember and I'm struggling. I can see their faces. I remember all of our interactions, but sometimes I think I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah, that is the cool part of us being at a small school. Like you said earlier, y'all get that close relationship with the professors, and oftentimes we also get that with y'all when we're in a class of 13 people. It's hard not to get to know y'all individually and be able to
And
offer
then you
that.
have that class with 13 people 3 times a day, and
Yeah.
you just see the same professor over and over again. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's nice and it's cool that we're at a school that's small enough that we can offer those personalized moments or extend that bit of grace. Where I'd assume if you're in a lecture hall with 200 people, there
Yeah,
offering grace there is going to be a whole different ball game.
I would say also, Matt Wimberly. Wimberly was really a tremendous professor and friend to me, as well as Dr. Hufford. I really enjoyed both of their classes and really enjoyed, while they're not as much as like, they're kind of a part of the ORM program, but they're not exactly ORM professors in the fullest capacity. They're more literature based. I remember when I went on our wilderness expedition, I was a part of the staff was Dr. Hufford and Wimberly and Katie Wall, and that was really cool. It was really cool to be able to travel the country with people I got to study with every day and ask questions academically on that level about just a lot of our culture that I was unfamiliar with, and I'm still even learning about. We're constantly learning every day as people. It's hard to put it all into words sometimes.
For sure. I'm glad you mentioned Dr. Hufford and Wimberly, though. Those are both great, great guys at this college. I think Matt has moved on to App State at this point, but was an
Yeah,
awesome
yeah.
professor. So
He's a really tremendous professor.
So fast forwarding a little bit, we get through college, you graduate. If I remember correctly, and this is me rolling off of memories from when I worked at Beach Mountain, but you stayed around in the area for a little bit, worked at Beach, stayed in the
I
area,
did,
and
yeah.
and then you fast forwarded on and you now are working as a tattoo artist. So I'm
Mhm.
curious, and I know we've talked about this a little bit in just previous conversations, but how did some of the skills or knowledge that you gained in our outdoor rec management program help you today? Even, we're a bit outside of what you would consider normal recreation, but I think that you could probably have some skills and things you took away that are helpful today still.
Yeah. So I like to exercise, so I still participate in, I wouldn't say, I participate in the outdoor industry in a non-professional way at this point. So I'm not working in outdoor education, but being an outdoor educator is something that has changed my life in really powerful and positive ways. Post graduation, I did work, for a few more seasons doing snowboarding at Beach Mountain. And I had a lot of passion being able to teach people something that they inevitably could continue on for the rest of their lives with their kids and have experiences. And I carry that with me. I think about that energy. I think about how many people I've taught how to snowboard. And it's really cool to be able to have been a part of that. And also knowing that I can always step back into that in any capacity. I decided to make a jump to being a tattoo artist to follow a pipe dream. And my pipe dream was that I've always wanted to be an artist, since I was a little kid, that I wanted to be a full-time professional artist. I wanted to work on art for a living. And I didn't know that I wanted to be a tattoo artist per se. I had tattoos. I thought tattoos were cool. I you know, I thought art was cool, but I didn't go to school to study art. I went to school to study outdoor education, and I spent a lot of time outside. I spent a whole lot of time outside. And when you spend a lot of time outside, it really changes your perspective for nature and the world around you. And having that perspective shift and having that perspective change for me has really allowed me to kind of focus on what I want to draw and things that I like making artistically. And so I started focusing on that. And then I also started thinking about, from a business sense, how I could afford to be an outdoor educator and make art at the same time. So it was a really small shift for me. It wasn't like I just kind of jumped into tattooing. I've always created art and I've always drawn, but since graduating Lees-McRae, I had a lot of time outside of not being a student. Suddenly, I was a parent, but also time to work on other things at that point because I wasn't studying all the time. And so I started painting and I started kind of working on some small project based stuff. I started making mugs and making prints and stuff and participated in Inktober the year following graduation, which is an art challenge in October where you draw every day. And I started not knowingly, but I unknowingly made an art portfolio. And so when I was working at beach and the season was coming to an end, I didn't really have a game plan for what I wanted to do as far as moving with my job and the industry. And I started talking kind of with my partner about tattooing because I had some friends that were into it. And I remember when I was in high school, I spent a lot of time my senior and junior year of high school hanging out in my local tattoo shop. I had a really cool friend whose shop that I work at now, who was apprenticing at the time. And I would go and I would hang out with them. And they're now a business owner in a tattoo shop that I work in, which is lots of steps moving forward. It's been a journey to get where I'm at today, but I will say that becoming a tattoo artist is just as hard as going to school. And when I started putting effort towards making art full time and looking into this industry that I'm in now, I've tried to approach it in the same way that I would approach learning about different outdoor industries, like rafting and guiding. Like I had a lot of fun teaching and I had a lot of skills with people at that point because I spent a lot of time with people. And because of that people skills, it really helped me with being able to talk with different tattoo shops about how I can improve my art. And that's kind of what I ended up doing was I kind of just ended up walking into a ton of different tattoo shops and being like, here's a folder and a massive pile of all of my art. Please look through it and tell me what's terrible and what I can improve on. And so I would take their advice and I kind of would just kind of like with my resume and Dr. Wall, I would just continuously send it back to her and she would tell me that it was wrong and fix it. And then I would repeatedly receive back feedback and critique the work that they would give me. And eventually I landed an apprenticeship and was able to secure a spot in the industry and went through some hardships that probably are saved for a different conversation, not in this podcast, but definitely took a lot to get where I'm at now. And a lot of the business sense that I carried away from the business side of my degree has really carried me with being able to be a sole proprietor and a business owner. I completely work for myself and I run myself as my own individualized brand. I make my own flash, my own art. I run my own tattoo booth. I pay my own rent for the station that I work in. And I don't think I would have been able to do that and managed it in the way that I currently structure and manage it if I weren't taught how to do that in a business sense through the structure that I received at Lees-McRae through the ORM program and learning about how beach was set up, learning about how local outdoor businesses were in, learning about places like Reed Gear and Boone, or talking with Mandy when she was running her shop out of the train. Mandy Lorem, she used to run an outdoor Reed Gear shop that was located in Banner Elk across from the college. And I got to hang out with her a little bit and kind of understand the way her business and sense worked. And I wouldn't have had that opportunity had I not pursued a degree in outdoor education and business. And I think a lot of the business side of my ORM degree was really, really helpful in terms of being able to have a job currently. I'm not going to tattoo forever, but I know that I have the know-how currently to be able to pursue either an outdoor venture, whether it's guiding or, running a retail shop, or I have a lot of experience now that I didn't have prior, and how the intricacies of like those businesses work and kind of what it takes to manage the retail side of it, but also the interpersonal side of it, because you gotta have to be a people person to be able to work in the outdoor field. You have to be able to talk to people, especially if you're going to be an outdoor educator, because you're constantly dealing with questions and having to kind of explain what's happening. And that's kind of the same thing I'm doing now as a tattoo artist. It's pretty much the exact same. Like, I'm like, okay, we're gonna do this thing and we're gonna talk about it. This is what's gonna look like, and there's planning into it. I sit down with my clients and come up with things that they want to get tattooed, and we make it happen. Um, kind of the same way that you would draw up a plan for beach and changing the ski resort, or introducing new lift operations for the year, stuff like that.
I'm sure that those conversations can even at times be more difficult because you're having to convince that somebody might have a good idea that sounds good to them on paper, but you as the artist are like, I know I've done this 100 times. This is not going to work, and having to communicate with that can be sure that is a
Yeah,
difficult part of your day.
it's a difficult part. Sometimes I have to be like, it's your body, your tattoo. I can't always convince people not to get stupid things put on their body, but if you're gonna get something stupid put on your body, at least get it from somebody professionally. I won't put the stupid thing on your body. I'll try to talk you out of it. But if you're going to do it anyway, at least get it done from somebody where it's going to look half decent.
That's right. And be clean and sanitary.
Yeah,
Very important
exactly. Clean
steps.
and sanitary and safe. That's really important.
So you talked a little bit there about how in our outdoor rec program, we make y'all go through a business background. We have y'all take several business courses. We also have a lot of interpersonal skills courses and get y'all really up to speed on that, and have a lot of activity courses. When you think back on your time, now that you've been out of school, what are some gaps that we may have had in our curriculum, or maybe an area that just you wish there'd have been another class, or maybe there's just a class you wish you could go back and take one more time?
I definitely wish I would have spent more time taking classes on my long-term financial investment and how to do taxes. I've constantly been a 1099 or not a 1099 employee. I've always had a W-2. I'm now a 1099 employee. So I work for myself and I have to pay taxes quarterly. And I wasn't really prepared for the the financial maturity that I would need financially to be able to keep up with the finances myself in a like large business structure, because I'm making a lot of money, but I still have to pay taxes and I still have a lot of outpay. And so I wish I would have taken more classes on how to kind of structure things from a business sense and how to like do tax deductions, because that's now something that I'm having to reteach myself. I did take a class in how to do that. I just retention wise don't remember much of it. I also remember as a business student taking a class that was on investments, and it was only for one semester. I wish I would have taken more than one class on that, because I think that having an idea on how the market works and being able to put your money into a way that you have passive income is extremely important, right? So my number one quarrel, my number one issue as an outdoor educator and even as a tattoo artist is my worry is that I don't want to be broke for the rest of my life, like most people, right? And it's really important in order to not be broke that you have a job that either pays really well. And even if you have a job that pays really well, it's really, really important that you have passive income. As an outdoor professional, if you don't have passive income for the changing of the seasons, right? We work seasonal jobs where we work winter industries, then the summer industries, and then back to winter industries, right? And if you don't have a job that can support the change in those seasonal structures, you are going to have financial hardship. And if you have passive income and if you have something that's kind of making money for itself, that really tremendously helps with being able to have support during those low seasons and stuff. And also, it allows you to not have to work as long in your life, right? So that you can hopefully retire early. And I wish I would have taken more time learning about the investment side of business, because I'm making enough money now to where I can invest and I'm doing it now, but having better structure for understanding how to put my money into places where it is intelligent would have been helpful. Because now I'm having to teach myself where to put my money in places that are intelligent. I'm trying to teach I'm trying to teach my partner, why it's important that they need to have a Roth IRA and we need to be saving for our individualized retirement, and how she needs a savings account. And it's really important that we're putting money away for the future of our child also, because, if we're having a baby, there's a lot of investment that goes into just everyday life that I wish I would have spent more time learning about throughout my course at Lees-McRae, so that I could be financially a little bit better off than I'm at right now. I feel like if we're going to talk about gaps in the curriculum, I wish I would have had more time, or there would have been more time dedicated to learning some of those investment strategies, kind of, and learning some passive income methods for slow seasons and stuff like that. Because it's even if you have a high paying outdoor job, most of the outdoor industry is seasonal because we run on seasonal based positions unless you secure a year round job, whether it's in education or resort management. Resort management is often seasonal. So being able to have some kind of financial layback is helpful. And that's something that I'm having to really backtrack and kind of teach myself currently.
I think that's an interesting point that you make there, especially with the seasonality of the outdoor recreation world. I can remember my first couple years out of college, I was working at the ski resort still, and I was like, what do I do between April and May when the resort switches from their winter operations to summer operations? And I found myself having to do a lot of little odd jobs in between the main season. So I do like that as a point. That was just something to be aware of.
Something to think critically of when you're graduating, because a lot of these positions and a lot of these jobs that are going to be offering you positions out of the gate are seasonal. So knowing how to prepare for that, knowing how to financially set, a budget up to where you are going to be secured when that seasonal position ends. And that was something um that tattooing really appealed to me about, was that it wasn't seasonal. And that's kind of ultimately what took me in the direction that I ended up going.
So you've already given several points of advice that I think a lot of people could take things away from. But when we're thinking specifically about students that are studying outdoor recreation management, or potentially even the high school student that's sitting in a classroom in a few months from now, deciding where they're going to go, what they're going to pursue in college, what advice would you have for them about studying in an outdoor recreation management degree?
My advice for studying in outdoor education is to be passionate about it. I think that if you're going to go to college at all, I think if you're going to pursue a degree, you shouldn't go to school to do something that you're not sure of. I think that my number one experience at Lees-McRae taught me that if you're not passionate about what you're learning, and you're not passionate about the courses that you're taking, and you're not interested in it, then you're not going to be motivated or have the ability to do the work that's going to be required of you to finish your college degree. It's better to wait, like if I'm talking to a high schooler specifically, I think it's better to wait to go to college until you're sure of what you want to do than to rush into going to college because you think that that's the right decision to do straight out of high school. Because that's what I did, right? I immediately went into college, and I thankfully chose a degree that I had a lot of passion and interest in. And that carried me very significantly through the final years of my course structure. And the fact that I was just really focused and interested on what I was doing and able to finish my studies and finish my degree, and was able to do something that I was really proud of because I went to school full time, while working a job and raising a kid with my partner at the time. And being a co-parent, I'm still a co-parent, right? Like that never ends, right? You have a child early, and that's something that you have to be responsible for. And much like being responsible for that child, you have to be responsible for the choices you make in your education. I think if you're going to pursue an outdoor education degree, if you're going to pursue a career in outdoor education or the outdoor field, it's really, really important that you're passionate about it. It's really important that you understand the responsibility and the dedication that is going to be required of you to not only serve your community, but also to serve yourself. Because the outdoor space is you. Outdoor. There's everything is outdoor, right? Like there's really like one thing that being an outdoor student has taught me that is that there's no separation. We might construct paper houses and wooden boxes from the trees in the forest that we tear down, but we're still no different than the birds or the animals outside. And we have the ability to separate ourselves through that, through our impact and our choices we make. Like there's so much to say about like the human experience, right? We all get to be a part of it and we get to structure our lives in a way that we can, you know, pick something that we work or we unfortunately we all live in America and we live in a capital work till we die kind of thing. So we kind of have to pick a job, right? Pick a job you like to do. I think that's really important. Pick a job that you enjoy and that brings you passion every day. And I say the same thing about the degree because if you are passionate about outdoor education and you're passionate about the things you're learning, it will carry you through being able to graduate and it'll carry you post graduation because you'll have that passion to be able to do something with the degree that you choose, right? I know for a fact that I'm always going to love outdoor education and the experiences at Lees-McRae has taught me that even if I decide I don't want to tattoo anymore, and I'm really hoping that tattooing works out for me because it's something that I really love. I know that there's other opportunities and there's always going to be, something in this world that I can do that I can pass time with because keeping busy and having something that makes you happy when you keep busy is what makes our days enjoyable as people, right? And if you go to school and you work a job and you get a degree that you love and you enjoy, you'll be happy. Happiness is something that you create as an individual. If you put yourself in a position to do something that you think will bring you happiness, it ultimately will. So if you think you'll enjoy it, if you think you'll be excited about it, if you think it sounds cool, if you think staying outside and having classes where you get to go, play in the creek and be outside sounds really awesome, you should do that because it is and it will be. And that was something that, Lees-McRae was really amazing about was that I got to have an education that was outside. And it taught me that inside and outside are the same. Like when you become an outdoor educator, you start to understand that there's really no separation and that we're all just people living this naturalized experience where we're all trying to make enough money to hopefully financially not have to someday because that's just kind of the position we're all in.
I really like that point you made about being passionate too. I think in our field, and particularly the passion of what you do in the outdoors, the passion of what you do tattooing, or what carry you through those tough days. Not always fun in my world. Waking up to rain on the weekend camping trip or several days of rain over it, but I love what I get to do. I love getting to share the experiences with the students. I definitely love getting to keep up with y'all once y'all get out of school and seeing where your individual journey takes you all. And I think the other point you made there that was so good was just how connected we are to each other and to the things around us. And that is something that it's hard to ignore in an outdoor education degree. I think we hone in on that pretty strong. So
Yeah.
before we wrap up today, is there anything else that you would like to add that we haven't talked about?
I don't know. Not really. I don't think I have like any other specific points. I think that the ORM program is constantly changing and growing and evolving. And I think that it will continue to do so, hopefully in ways that is really positive because it's really important. One of my biggest takeaways being from my experience at Lees-McRae is that it's really, really important that we advocate for the things we care about, right? It's really important we advocate for the protection of our outdoor spaces because even outside of this industry, if we don't, we're not going to have a planet to sustainably continue to keep us, right? Like we're not going to have a place to be able to sustainably have an industry to work in. ORM can't exist without the protection of our outdoor spaces. ORM can't exist without the protection of outdoor education and educating people on conservation and why it's really important outside of the degree. It's really important as everyday citizens and people that we are aware of our impact, the world around us, and the impact that it has on our abilities just to be people. And that's something that really will set into perspective for you, right? Like I was a part of Protect Our Winters and bringing, the Protect Our Winters branch to the East Coast. We now have an East Coast division for POW, thanks to Lily Bauer and I. And we were able to make some outreach and do some connectivity to be able to bring that connection to the area. And that's something is really important. My last takeaway is that it's really important that we're continuing to focus on being aware that our outdoor spaces are always fleeting and we need to, like this podcast is really important because if we don't have people understanding why it's important to protect these spaces, then our job as outdoor educators is failing, right? Like our ultimate goal is to be able to continue to grow our industry in a way that is sustainable, not economically, but naturalistically, because our industry involves us teaching people about why we love outside, right? And why we love the rain when we're camping, and we might hate it sometimes, but you also gotta love it because if you're camping, you're outside, you have space to do it in, and there's a lot of spaces in the world where that is fleeting, and those spaces are not existing anymore. And we're the result of that. We're the result of the destruction of that space. We have to be conservative when it comes to advocating for growing our industry as outdoor educators, but also as just citizens that care about the environment.
I love that as an ending. Hopefully, we can encourage some more people to go outside, have those experiences, take care of the places that we've got to enjoy and experience ourselves. Carter, thank you so much for your time today, right here around the holidays. Always hard to squeeze things in, but thank you for making this happen.
Absolutely.
Heart's pretty full on this podcast and on this chat we got to have today. You brought up some points that maybe aren't always thought of when we think of an outdoor recreation degree, and I appreciate your perspective on
Yeah.
your time and how you've made things happen. I'm really excited for where you're headed.
Cool. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for your time and for allowing me to kind of share my experiences with you and share why I personally think, it's important to continue to run our program, run the outdoor program. I'm excited to be a part of the conversation about how we can improve, but also how it's really good. And it's really important to advocate for that because it's really good. And I hope that other people can have, a similar experience and similar takeaways.
If you enjoyed this conversation today, please like and subscribe to the Lees-McRae College YouTube channel. And to stay up to date on what is happening in the Outdoor Recreation Management Department, follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Until next time, go play outside.